Welcome to Picard Cast, our personal logs edition. As always, I'm Brooke, and I'm here with the co-hostess with the mostest, Rebecca.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Um, yeah, I started watching Voyager just because for reasons that will be obvious in a minute. But I noticed you were trying Enterprise again. How's that going for you?
Yeah, I am once again trying to watch Enterprise. I would say this time around I am more than trying. I am succeeding at watching
Yay!
Enterprise. I
Nice.
am in season 2. I want to say I'm about episode maybe 15-ish, around there.
Wow.
Um, I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite Star Trek show. But I think I had such a I think that's maybe when I watched it, I just in my head I was like, "This isn't Star Trek," and I kind of like,
Oh.
was like, "I don't want to watch this." But I'm a different person now than I was when the show came out, and I'm more mature, and I've experienced Discovery and Picard, which are very different, and
Hmm.
I figured, you know what, why not? Now's the time to go back and try something that I didn't like before. I have to say the show is more enjoyable than I remember it being. I certainly like I have my nitpicks, especially with season 1, but I do think that season 2 is stronger than season 1, and I am actually looking forward to getting into season 3 and seeing like what happens next with the crew. But yeah, I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would. How are you enjoying Voyager?
I like it so far. I because we have a couple of episodes in season 4 to watch for this. That's where I started with season 4.
That's fine.
Um, but I did watch the first episode of Enterprise, just
Hmm.
and I didn't think that the theme song was as bad as you were making it out to. Maybe if you hadn't have said anything about it, it would have been worse to me, but I
Right.
think I was preparing for like I don't know, like really terrible levels of music. So,
I think what's so weird is that it's the only Star Trek series that has an actual theme song with words that are played.
we
Um,
can put lyrics to any of them and just sing along if you.
well, this is certainly true, and I'm not against that. And in actuality, Star Trek the original series, that theme, Gene Roddenberry did write words to the melody, the tune that is played.
Really?
He did. He kind of did it for a really terrible reason. He didn't want to. This is terrible. I love Gene Roddenberry, but he didn't. He's an imperfect person, as we all are. The He did not want to give 100% of the rights, and therefore the residuals, to
Uh-huh.
the person who wrote the theme music. So he then wrote lyrics and then submitted it as a 50-50 project.
Oh,
And
wow.
so the yeah, not very nice, because he
Hmm.
did that behind the composer's back, and the composer was none too happy to have to share what he thought would be his own,
Hmm.
um, obviously his own credit to it. He had no input to the lyrics. It was all Roddenberry.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's not very nice.
Anyway,
Not very nice. So,
anyway, I'm sorry, you guys. I kind of got off talking about Star Trek on our Star Trek podcast and
how dare you
neglected
go off topic on? Yeah, I know.
neglected to let you all know that Nicola's back.
Hello.
Yay!
Well, I was
Heard
just
that other
enjoying you
voice.
talking about Voyager and Enterprise because I happen to love the Enterprise theme song.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It it grows on you.
Hmm.
It definitely. I was just saying this morning that it grows on you, because this week I found myself, in the middle of doing a project, all of a sudden being like, "It's a long road. Oh, what am I doing? It's I'm singing the song. Oh my goodness."
That's amazing.
I just feel like all the themes of the different shows capture the shows so well, even though they're all so different.
Hmm.
For sure. I agree.
Mm. I mean, I guess there's some similarities with the you know, uh, more orchestral ones, but
Hmm.
yeah, they're all kind of they fit the tone.
I have to say, of all this series, although I do probably because I've just watched more of Next Generation so many times. I of course I enjoy that theme, but I think that my favorite theme of all the Star Trek series is actually the Star Trek Voyager theme. I really love the melodies and like, especially like towards the end, you get this really nice beat where it's like. Bum 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 bum
Hmm.
bum. I really enjoy the Voyager theme a lot. I don't write music, everybody, so I just have to sing them bum bum bums. But that, yeah, I have to say, of all of them, I think Voyager is my favorite. I think it's a really very pretty theme, of all the Star Treks.
Sounds good. No. Awkward pause. No.
Awkward pause. And now we'll continue.
Anyway, so the reason why Nicola's here, she's gonna talk about one of her favorite episodes of Star Trek, and if you would give us what episode you picked and a little insight onto why.
Yeah, so it's really hard to pick a favorite episode. It's like picking a favorite cheese, which is nearly impossible. Um, but I really love. I mean, I really enjoy mirror universe episodes, and A Living Witness really it starts feeling like like a mirror universe episode, even though it's not. And you just get to play around with the different characters. And I feel like when science fiction, especially Star Trek, is at its best, is when it's being political and when it's taking a look at like what we can learn from artifacts and what that tells us about history and who we are today, and then how that translates to conflicts. And I just feel like A Living Witness does that so well while also having a lot of fun with like the holodeck.
I really agree with your reasoning here on this episode. It's interesting because when you picked this, for some reason in my head, I had it that I was like, oh, I guess this is like a so-so episode of Voyager. For some reason, it didn't click all the themes that were in this episode when I first heard the title. And then when I started watching it again, I said, "Oh, wait a minute. What am I saying? This is a great episode of Star Trek." And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's the idea of history being written from a very slanted point of view to make certain people out to be the villains and certain people out to be the martyrs or the good guys. But where's the truth in all of that? Somewhere
Mm-hmm.
in that, in this story, is the truth, but um, it's certainly not the truth that was presented for so many years. Um, and you're right. I agree. Star Trek is at its best when it is political, which makes me laugh when people online complain and say, "Oh, why Star Trek has to be political?" Have you never seen an episode of Star Trek ever? Like they're all political. What are you
Mm-hmm.
talking about? They're very heavy on like social issues, and this episode I found to be very timely for 2020 even, of how people look
Certainly.
at history, of a slanted you know um viewpoint on the facts.
Right. Like what a like the whole there's a whole thing now like, truth over facts. And I think this episode really plays into that idea. Like here are the facts that we know and we're going to glean our truth from the facts because we're missing so much detail.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, great pick. I'm excited to talk about this episode
And
with you all.
well, and originally you had picked a different episode because I know when we had talked about it, you were saying you were talking about Seven of Nine and all that kind of
Mhm.
thing, and sort of her arc and all that. And then I thought, well, I wonder why she switched to this episode. And then I started watching, and then I'm like, oh, this is like a very timely episode, even though it's 22 years old. Um,
Well, I like this episode for a lot of reasons of timeliness, but I feel like as a whole, Voyager really fails on its premise. Um, the premise is like they're far flung into a different quadrant of the universe, and they're getting back, but during Voyager, they're meeting all of these species, they're interacting with them, but you never get to see what happens next. In the Alpha Quadrant, like, it doesn't really matter because we'll catch up in the next series. We'll see what's going to happen on, 100 years later when we see a new episode of Picard. But, like, in Voyager, we have no way of knowing what happens when the ship leaves this quadrant of the galaxy.
Mm.
And I really appreciate that, like, this is almost like a what-if story of, like, here's all the stuff that happened as a result of Voyager that the crew has no idea. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, that's also a really valid point. We once Voyager leaves, like, their adventure is over. There was I think one other episode of Voyager that did explore that theme. I'm blanking on the name, but Nicola, you might remember it. It's the one where they meet this guy, and he's like a linguist, and it turns out that his species blamed Voyager because they helped the Borg defeat species 8472, and once the Borg defeated species
Spoilers, man.
8472, I know, sorry. Sorry about that. Oh well. For a 20-plus-year-old show, I'm sorry, but I know you're still watching it. Anyway, it's sort of just the idea of, like, Voyager did certain things to help themselves, but didn't have to see the after effect. But that episode explored what happened when you take out a species that's kept the Borg in check. What happens to all the other planets in that system now that the Borg don't have anybody keeping them back? And that was a cool episode because it did explore those same themes that you're talking about here.
Yeah, I really, I really appreciate this episode. And I also, like, I love the character of the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And this is such a Doctor-centric episode. And I feel like, especially with Voyager, a lot of the cast on the show was very unevenly written, and they didn't know what to do with a lot of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And for this episode, it really doesn't matter because it's other people telling, the ship's story, and it's the Doctor's point of view telling the story. So it doesn't matter how how well written the characters are because they're being told based on very specific points of view. And I think it's just written really well. In other episodes, the characters may not be written as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think once Seven of Nine came on the show, once her character became part of the show, I felt like the writers didn't know what to do with everybody else because a lot of the stories became Seven of Nine focused. Yeah, you're right. This is a great episode for the Doctor, and it's kind of fun to see how. It's kind of funny to see what details they get wrong in this, like, simulation, like, and we'll get into it all, but, like, Chakotay's tattoo is, like, gigantic.
Yeah.
Tuvok smiles, Neelix works on the bridge. Yeah, like little details that you're like, that's not right, and it's funny to watch in that sense. But yeah, how interesting now to see the Doctor try to present the truth as he knows it versus this sort of truth that these people have held for hundreds of years, challenging such a closely held belief. Another very timely, topic of no matter what year it is, people have lots of preconceived ideas